This program made possible in part by grants from the UCF College of Health and Public Affairs, which promotes excellence in undergraduate and graduate education, research, and community service in health-related professions and public affairs. And the UCF College of Medicine, where our goal is to become America's leading partnership medical school and a national leader in medical education and research. And the UCF College of Nursing, which offers high-quality, innovative academic programs that reflect the healthcare needs of a changing population and meet the needs of today's students.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to For Your Health. I'm Charna Davis-Weese.
And I'm Ed Highland. On today's show, there's a big buzz about Orlando becoming a major player in biomed. But what is the reality? The director of the Burnett School of Biomedical Sciences shares his thoughts. Also today, biomedical researchers everywhere are searching for ways to produce cheaper drugs. We'll look at one solution involving a high-tech chip.
I'm Alicia Callanan Mandigo. Orlando's Global Robotics Institute stands to open a whole new world of medicine to UCF students. I'll have that story.
But first, an update on health issues from UCF.
The costs surrounding the development of new drugs are astounding, reaching well into hundreds of millions of dollars. But there's a biomedical engineer who has found a new way to test drugs that would help to make them cheaper.
You're looking at the human body. Well, not really, but this microchip device mimics the body's reactions. The chip is lined with human cells and reacts the way organs would when exposed to environmental chemicals or drugs. The yellow dye shows how the body reacts. Biomedical engineer Michael Schuler says this surrogate human has many advantages, like lowering the astronomical expense it takes to test a drug.
Anywhere from $800 million to $1.5 billion. A lot of that cost is not for that particular drug, but for all the other drugs which were developed in parallel which don't work.
Today, students are using the chip to test drugs to help cancer patients.
These are cancers that have developed some sort of resistance mechanisms that allow them to survive chemotherapy, and they can thrive in the human body.
These lighter dots are cells in the process of death. Dark is cells that have died.
The results are promising, and the microchip allows for these tests with fewer animal studies.
Reducing the amount of animals used to test compounds for human benefit is of great importance. It's a humanistic goal. And using our device, you can reach that.
With potential to help in the fight for cancer, lead to more effective drug testing, and reduce animal studies, this body on a chip is proving good things do come in small packages. This is Cynthia Demas reporting.
Lab-on-a-chip designs have actually been around for a few years, but this one is the first to function as a living body.
The Burnett College of Biomedical Sciences has seen outstanding growth recently. Currently, there are 1,800 biomed students at UCF, and enrollment has seen a steady 15% increase each year.
Those numbers certainly make it seem like we'll have the workforce needed to create a medical city that's under construction out at Lake Nona. Joining us today is Dr. Papachan Kalatakuti. He's the director of the Burnett School of Biomedical Sciences. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course.
Are we indeed creating a workforce for a medical city?
That is part of our function as a university. And as you see in California, for example, all the UC system provide the workforce for the biotech industry there. And so we have been expanding our program to provide the workforce for the biomed industry that is emerging in Central Florida and other parts of the state.
But it's a slow process. I mean, it just doesn't happen overnight, obviously.
No, the last 5 years, we went up from 600 to almost 1,800 students in majoring in our area. And the enrollment, even this summer, it is like 37% increase for this summer's enrollment right now, coming summer. So it's a tremendous increase, realizing all the hype about emerging biotech industry in this state. People are coming to this particular field to prepare themselves for a future. So we started a new degree program in biotechnology, BS degree, deliberately for that purpose this year. And we have started an MS program in biotechnology and an MS MBA in collaboration with our business school. So we can provide the scientific workforce and the managerial workforce who can manage the science.
Because you can do all the research in the world, but you need to have the business knowledge to get that research into action and turn it into something.
This is why we have the MS MBA. We'll start this fall. And the business school is such a good partner to achieve that.
When we talk about biotech, biotechnology, biomedical, the average person watching probably has an idea of what that means, but it's so vast. Is there any way to put it in a nutshell of what we're talking about?
Essentially, the revolutionary increase in knowledge about life, how it works, that started in the later part of last century and now expanding even further, that gives us the new opportunities to deal with the proteins and the genes, the two major aspects that control our health. And the information technology explosion, you couple to that, becomes a major boost. And so new ways of using that information to apply to problems in health. And so it's an immense new technology that has nobody could imagine in the first half of last century.
And I imagine in the last 10 years, even, just with the technology to get the information out.
It is expanding in a log because many technologies are converging. Life science technology, information technology, and the miniaturizing everything, all of them are converging to apply to health problems.
So we have the students coming in, we have the technology expanding, growing, and evolving here. Being a little selfish, how much of this stays here? Do the students, do they stay here? Does the research stay here? Does it grow here?
See, undergraduates, we don't really have a very good data on all the undergraduates. It's a rapidly expanding, and we don't have a long enough history. You probably heard that last 10 years produced half the graduates of UCF. So it's a rapidly expanding force. But all our students are remaining in the profession, master's degree and PhD students. Most of them doing research in biotech industry, in research laboratories in a private or public sector. So, and most of them are remaining in Florida or thereabouts, southeast, I should say. But some of the students, of course, will go to the top universities in America. Our top students are as good as any student anywhere. So they go to the very best universities for higher education after they finish, the cream of the crop.
There's so much more to talk about. We'll have more with Dr. PK in a moment, but first, here's a look at the Burnett School of Biomedical Sciences.
And we're back with Dr. PK. We're talking about biomedical research. We're talking about the Biomedical College here, the Burnett Biomedical College. And let's talk a little bit more about the programs and the curriculum, some of the things that are in development. You've got a lot going on as UCF continues to build not only this program, but also the program in conjunction with the new College of Medicine.
We are providing the first 2 years of medical education. Our faculty members can help the most because we are basic biomedical scientists. When it comes to third and fourth year for clinical, there'll be a new set of people will be coming in, the clinical faculty that Dr. German is now hiring. So the first 2 years will be our major contribution. But we will retain the quality of our undergraduate and graduate education. We will not sacrifice it in any way to help the other. So we will maintain both. And this is why we are hiring new people to do research as well as instruction.
You used two words in that sentence, hiring and research, which really pretty much pinpoints what you do. You just don't administrate.
Well, you know, administration without participating in the real activities, you can easily lose touch. And so I try to keep, besides for me, I need research to have my own intellectual curiosity going. As long as I can convince somebody my ideas are worth funding, I can keep going, even though I'm an old man. So.
We're certainly not an old man, and certainly the research is very cutting edge, very new. I had the honor of dropping by your lab and looking in on some of the work you're doing with proteins and the heart. Can you give us, and again, it's very difficult for the layperson to understand. I had a difficult time with it, but you explained it so well and what you're trying to pinpoint. In the case of cardiovascular, it's very simple. The #1 killer is ischemic heart disease for humans. And we engineered an animal that can develop heart disease over a period of a few months. So we can actually follow the changes that happen in the animal during the development of the disease that you cannot do in a human, and you can do in an animal. So we use that animal model to ask the question, what are the molecular changes that is responsible for the pathology that develops, which ultimately kills the animal within about 4 or 5 months. And in humans, of course, it's a little bit longer, but the same mechanisms usually apply in humans as it is in animal. So we are using the modern technology, gene chips, to discover what are the new genes that are turned on that is possibly the cause of development of the pathology. That's our major area. And that's how we discovered genes that have never been known before, and a protein that is generated from that gene. And we find that protein is a master controller of many events directly relevant to inflammatory diseases. And now in the last few years, people have realized many diseases, the major diseases, cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, they're all inflammatory in nature. And that's why it is so important. You're finding the markers, the clues, if you will, that may lead us to some great discoveries. The particular protein we discovered is likely to be a good target for a drug that can control inflammation, which means directly relevant to these particular major diseases.
I always love to get into the mind of a researcher, so when we come back, I would love to ask you how you even get the inkling of where you want to start and what you want to look at. And we'll be back with more with Dr. Kalata in just a moment. We're back. We're talking with Dr. PK about biomedical sciences. As a researcher, where do you find that passion, that spark that says, I'm going to go for funding for this particular thing? Where does that come from? Most things come from many different ways. In the case of heart disease, we started this almost 20 years ago because somebody had found a protein in the fluid
of a culture in which they were culturing some tumor cells. They didn't know what the heck it was. So they came to me and said, and so we decided to find out what it is, and we cloned the gene, and this is the protein that is produced by living cells whenever those cells are under threat, injury, inflammation, or infection. This little protein is sent out. And this is how we started with that, and then of course for the 20 years, the nature of the program changes.
A lot of it comes from serendipity, just
well,
one thing
you know,
that you don't expect.
The curiosity, we have a tuberculosis research program we have had for many years now, I mean several decades, and originally we started tuberculosis, the pathogen produces unusual molecules on its outer surface. Being a chemist, trained chemist, I looked at those weird molecules and asked the question, what kind of weird enzymes will generate this? Nobody at that time was interested in TB, of course. This is before AIDS. Therefore, the TB-AIDS combination that causes a major problem now did not exist. So it was a chemical curiosity of what kind of weird enzymes will produce these molecules. Now it turns out those same molecules are critical for pathogenesis, for the disease TB. So, you know, you never know what you start with will end up at.
Your passion for research is obvious, and as we talk more and more about what's going on out at the medical city, it brings to mind a word that you said toward the beginning of the interview, which was the word hype. What are the chances, I mean, realistically, of this area becoming the next San Diego or the next Boston?
Being only a scientist, my answers will be obviously a factual thinking on it rather than a hype. So that I preface that. Now, our building is almost done. In a year, we will move in. We can occupy in a year. And we are going to start a major recruiting, which was slowed down because of lack of space. So we expect to hire approximately 40 faculty members in the College of Medicine and Biomedical Science School put together over the next 5 years. And of course, you know, the Burnham building is also going up in the next lot. And they expect to hire 30 people. So now we are talking about 70 new people. And MD Anderson is planning to build a building in our vicinity, maybe next to us. And they expect to hire also 10 new faculty members. These are all team leaders. So each team will probably have, you know, 10 people in that. So we are now talking about 80 to 100 people, 100 teams. And then you're talking about a substantial size, a critical mass. And then, of course, you will have VA hospital. In a 5-year period, that will come up, and there will be research there. Nemours Children's Hospital, and I heard a rumor they might even have their major research activity there, even a headquarters possibly there. So there will be a big activity there. So these are all real, we can see today happening within a 10-year period. So we will have a critical mass of real biomedical research going on. And when you have active research like that, many people come to utilize that to generate products, spin-off companies and the like. Those are not easily predictable. Even in a small place like Burnett School, we have several biotech companies spun off from the discoveries in our relatively small group. So when we have 100 new people, we expect to have biotech companies coming out. Now when you say, will it be a San Diego in a 10-year period? I think that will be a little bit hype for that. But it is on its way to becoming a real player in a 10-year period.
It's almost like the incubator here at UCF. You'll start to get some of the spin-offs that can be small but worthwhile and very important contributors to the cause.
Exactly. Bay Area, Boston, those kind of places, they were developing over many, you know, decades. You know, I mean, we cannot instantly become that, but the big boost happening in Florida now will have an interplay, synergistic interactions, so things will go faster here than any time in the past.
Dr. Piquet, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts.
Of course.
We talked a little bit about the future of what a medical city might be, and that makes it a good time to check in on what's happening right now with UCF's College of Medicine.
Central Florida recently attracted over 600 physicians for a thrill that didn't involve a theme park. Instead, the visiting doctors donned 3D glasses to watch robotic surgery. Alicia Callanan Mandigo has details.
It's called the Da Vinci. It's a kind of menacing-looking thing that, once in action, can look a bit like Edward Scissorhands. It's a robot used to perform prostate surgery.
Well, the robot that we use in surgery today, the Da Vinci robot, is more computer-assisted robotic surgery. It's where the surgeon actually controls the robot. The robot just mimics and replicates everything that the surgeon does in real time. The advantage is you have three-dimensional vision. It's magnified times 10. And you're in an environment that has robotic wrists. So you have these small miniature instruments that can twist and turn, just like the human hand can. There's tremor filtration, there's motion scaling, all these advantages that allow a machine to be more precise than we can with our own human hand.
Yes, the Da Vinci is really big and scary. Just focus on the words minimally invasive, because that's what robotic surgery is, minimally invasive, and we'll eventually be seeing it used for all kinds of surgeries.
We do. We have surgeons who are gynecologists and general surgeons who do come to us for training. We have a training center, probably the world's largest here in Orlando, and I think they really come to watch the operative team, how they work together, and to see how the technology works.
Dr. Patel is one of the world's leading experts in robotic surgery. In anticipation of UCF's new College of Medicine, he brought the Global Robotics Institute to Orlando and Florida Hospital. The amazing thing about having the Global Robotics Institute here in Orlando is that it has truly put a global focus on us. He hosted a first-of-its-kind Global Robotics Conference in Orlando, and the center attracts both patients and doctors from all over the world. As a faculty member for the UCF Medical School, Dr. Patel believes the Global Robotics Institute will be a great clinical arm for the university. But UCF wasn't the only reason Dr. Patel brought the institute here.
I think one of the most exciting reasons that we came here really was not only with the collaboration with the University of Central Florida, but in specific its program in simulation and training. University of Central Florida is surrounded by multiple simulation companies, and that's really exciting in the field of robotics, as everything in medicine really appears to be going towards simulation and training. I think we have an opportunity in our collaboration to potentially make the most, or the largest, most expansive training center and simulation center in the world.
And that could provide both UCF and Orlando a global presence that is completely different from anything we've seen before. I'm Alicia Callanan Mandigo for your health.
Robotic surgery is working its way into nearly all fields of medicine. Perhaps in the future, even heart surgery will be minimally invasive. And until then, I'm Ed Highland.
And I'm Charna Davis-Wiese. Thanks for joining us, and see you next time on For Your Health.